since a lot of people are trying to ask questions, I know that there's some people that are going to ask us questions, reasonable questions for anti-SJWs. So I'm going to go ahead and answer these reasonable questions by a YouTuber who uploaded this, known as Christy Winters, who was nice enough to take videos from other YouTubers and ask the ultimate question about anti-SJWs. So here we go.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
Of course, people are going to react to it by debating you. That's a part of human nature. People are going to ask questions.
What is it with you people and skulls?
You look familiar. I can't really point my finger on it, but let me go ahead and compare something.
How do you define right-wing? Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you? And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
Let's put it this way. Most people can identify as something like differently. Right-wing or left-wing. It depends on what country you're in. Most people can identify as, I don't know, a religious fundamentalist.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
The accusations of telling you to go drink bleach. I never really done that. You obviously probably encountered internet trolls that tried to, do it for the lulz. But then again, not everyone does that.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
Do I claim to be rational? Do I claim to be any of those things? Possibly not. Maybe. I don't know. You tell me, because it's the perception that people see in me or you or anyone else thinking I'm illogical or unrational or any of those things. I guess not. I don't know. You tell me what you think.
No, seriously? What is it with you people and skulls?
No, seriously. Why do you almost look like this guy for some weird reason? I don't know why, but you...
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
Jeez, overly used terms like racist, misogynist, which has no meaning anymore, which you guys are popularizing right now as well. Why is the rain sexist? Why is the hurricane racist? Why is the plains misogynist?
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
What? What? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Geez, even the other side has a little bit of a dark side to them as well. I don't know. You tell me.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
What do you mean by feminist position? Okay, let me look this up on Google. Okay, I found it.
So I decided, as someone who essentially travels the world and does spoken word, that it's kind of my responsibility to spread feminist sexual positions. Thank you. free time, I came up with 3. Position number 1 is a dude going down on a woman. She squirts in his face. He learns to respect women. It's called the 19th Amendment. All right, save your energy. I got 2 more. Position number 2 is a woman riding a dude. She gets him about 30% away from an orgasm, but she gets up and leaves. It's called the Equal Pay Act. Position number 3 is my favorite. It's just a woman masturbating in a kitchen. A dude walks in sad. It's called make your own dinner.
Okay, that's what I found so far. That's pretty much it. I don't know what your position you want to go into, but okay.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
That's fine. As long as you stand by your position, I'll stand by mine. Don't worry. No harm will come to you or anything like that.
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
Steve, I don't have an issue with third wave feminists. Back in the 90s, they brought out the Lilith Fair. That's what spawned a lot of good, really talented female artists. And yet, Steve, you realize they actually did the work. They actually tried to do something for a change. They actually convinced people. They actually talked to people. Even tried to, show women can actually play music for once. Like, for example, Jewel and Cyril Kroll.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men, but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
Okay, you made your point. She's not a feminist. She's a hateful person that hates homosexuals like Milo, and was trying to harass him on stage.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists? Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
Let's put it this way. If Bob Chibin didn't have to admit to the fact that Devin Ferrazzi put his hands down a woman's pants, he didn't have to do that to answer, because he doesn't speak for Devin Ferrazzi or anybody else. He speaks for himself.
If SJWs are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years? I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, oh, how dare they? Just how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining forever for a living. That's healthy.
Usually I don't make videos like this, and I don't try to respond to these things, but sometimes I have to, just to point out some issues, considering that Steve Shies blocked me on Twitter.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
Wrecking people for views? No, that's not how I operate on this channel. I usually just make fun of things, and that's pretty much it.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
Jane Fonda. That's the only person I would probably admire. But as for the books, no, I didn't read any.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
Well, people are going to react to it no matter what. Even if they're stupid or intelligent, it wouldn't matter.
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the #1 priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Does it maybe? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games. Look, Anita, I'm sorry, but I can't... We can't actually destroy video games. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, let me ask you a question. What does video games have to do with sexual assault? Seriously, what does it have to do with it?
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out. At least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channels, just in order to build some bridges there and to learn more about what they think and how they feel and what their experience has been, so that information and knowledge can be furthered?
Okay. But I gotta say, Allahu Akbar.
You denied that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general? If so, what? Okay, just step up, just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk. If not, why is it so much more important to you to demonize groups like Black Lives Matter than to actually use your platforms to discuss actual solutions to issues surrounding race and racism?
Trying to beat up white policemen because Black Lives Matter. Trying to kill all the white babies because Black Lives Matter. Trying to stop all the warlords from killing black people because Black Lives Matter, and they couldn't even do that shit because Black Lives Matter. Couldn't stop the starvation in Africa because Black Lives Matter. Trying to stop all the gang fights from people trying to kill black people because Black Lives Matter. Couldn't stop a gang member shooting a black girl because Black Lives Matter. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're not a movement that's trying to help protect black people. You're instigating a race war. And that's the problem with your movement, is that you're instigating a race war. That's all I gotta say about this shit. Seriously.
If you've ever discussed or done a video about black on black crime, when are you going to do a video about white on white crime and what we as white people can do to solve the problems in our community?
Okay, done.
What's with the needle, Doc?
Listen, this will make you more like Sloane. Powerful, but without the side effects.
No, Doc. No way. I swore an oath to a special lady.
Your wife?
No. Lady Liberty. She taught me that winners don't use drugs.
Why is a literal teenager's different definition of racism from you so horrifying that you all have to go, no! No, we have to stop him! We've got to debunk him now! Ah!
Well, Milo's just a young person, of course, and everyone has to go after her because she's still learning and still trying to grow as a YouTuber.
Wherever did you get the idea that racism was a self-applied identity? And if the only true racists are the racists who self-identify as racists, how can we ever expect to make any social progress to reduce racism? Or did I just answer my own question?
Now, how do I know that the white people know that we are going to come up with a solution to the problem? I know it because they have retina scans, they have what they call racial profiling, DNA banks, and they're monitoring our people to try to prevent the one person from coming up with the one idea. And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to. We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem. Now, I don't care whether you clap or not, but I'm saying to you that we need to solve this problem because they are going to kill us. And I will leave on that. So we have to just set up our own system and stop playing and get very serious and not be diverted from coming up with a solution to the problem. And the problem on the planet is white people.
Be hard to follow that one. You can get.
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment, as are well documented in various studies, then how can the current situation be thought of as equal opportunity in any real way? And why do you consider it racist to discuss these issues?
Because you're treating them like pets instead of actual human beings. That's the truth.
Do you understand basic English syntax? Like, you know, if I say this cat is pretty, I don't mean that all other cats aren't pretty. Like, do you really not get why saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is not only racially insensitive, but just patently ridiculous?
Damn, son. I got 99 problems, and bitch, you ain't one. Hit me.
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women, and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid, and that reduces us to beasts? If that was the case, wouldn't I attempt to get laid from my views instead of not ever trying that?
Oh, it's not offensive, dude. It's okay, man. You're trying to do this to get laid. Just admit it.
If you say you're an egalitarian, will you call out the man-hating slurs that you see coming from people within your community? People who use terms like cuck, beta male, faggot, or mangina? All of these things basically distill men down into thinking that the most important thing about them is to be having sex with a woman. That's rather offensive. So what are you doing to stop this kind of behavior in your community?
What do you mean by my community or your community or whatever you're referring to? Because I don't understand your question right here. It seems like we're on different wavelengths. Would I stop these people from doing it? No, I can't, because I don't know what you're talking about a community who's doing this. Who are you referring to? Who are you saying it about? What is this community?
What is the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics? What have they got to do with the argument? Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks, has nearly 3 million followers. So what? Those people follow him because he tells them what they want to hear. Why even mention the number of followers you have? What difference does it make?
The answer to your question is absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Why is it that you go on and fucking on about safe spaces and trigger warnings and delicate little flowers, but continue to hide behind your cartoon avatars and your childish pseudonyms? And whenever anyone calls you out on your sexist, racist, homophobic, bigoted rhetoric, you become the argument of your own scorn and are hashtag triggered, as they say.
Well, I'll be damned. I guess you got me right there. But how about Morgan Freeman? Does it trigger
Are
you?
you willing to publicly acknowledge and admonish the massive amount of hatred, bullying, harassment, and intimidation that a lot of your fans infringe upon people? And I don't mean these tiny disclaimers that you put under the description fold or flash for 2 seconds at the beginning of the video that you know nobody reads. I mean a public and ongoing anti-bullying stance. Or do you kind of like watching your fans go around harassing people and calling them slurs and telling them to kill themselves? You kind of like it, don't you? I mean, if that's your thing, and I guess that's just what you're into, just makes you a dick.
Well, damn, son, that's a pretty big accusation right there. For some reason, you think I actually have an involvement with something that you claim that I did when I didn't? Think about it for a moment. Why are you accusing me of it?
Why do you find it so hard to believe that feminists are being harassed online?
If you define harassment as, well, disagreeing with someone on the internet, then you obviously have some really big issues that you need to tend to.
Do you understand the key importance of reproducibility and repeatability in scientific research? That simply going to Google Scholar, doing a 30-second search for keywords and pulling out the first paper you find that backs up your stance is not a particularly credible way to do research. That you have to have a much broader overview, to read the material, to follow the citations through, to look at the broad brush approach to a particular problem. You do realise that you're as much of a social justice warrior as those you critique. It's just that you espouse a different form of social justice, a rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the educational system was very nice and very kind to everybody? No, they were never kind to anybody. They basically were cruel and tried to get results out of children. That's how education works.
If you identify as an egalitarian, then I'm interested in your take on the usefulness of the concept of the original position as laid out by John Rawls in his theory of justice.
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
Why are you so obsessed with Anita Sarkeesian?
Do you really think you can spend your entire life in a perpetual state of emotional immaturity? Do you actually imagine that you will be able to perpetuate your adolescence for your entire Wait, didn't somebody else ask this one? Wait, I gotta... Ah, fuck.
Well, that is it. You can like, subscribe, or comment, or dislike this video if you really don't like it. Thank you for watching. Bye.